Opposition parties call for provincial council elections to be held under the previous system. Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and Ilangai Thambelara Sukatchi jointly made the request.
A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news live from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I am Steven Machado.
And I am Hashimi Patrana. First up is a look at your headlines for tonight.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
Amid the conflict in the Middle East, is India heading towards a foreign exchange crisis? Prime Minister Modi urges citizens to avoid buying gold for a year, limit overseas travel and opt for work from home arrangements. Low hydropower output and rising fuel prices drive electricity tariff increase. Energy Minister explains the reasons behind the latest electricity tariff hike. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa to appear before Bribery Commission over Airbus deal probe. Low pressure system near Sri Lanka triggers heavy rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters in several areas. Opposition parties call for provincial council elections to be held under the previous system. Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and Ilangai Thambelara Sukatchi jointly make the request.
On to your top story tonight. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made an appeal that has the entire nation talking. Hashini, to put it crudely, he said, quote unquote, don't buy gold for a year, postpone foreign travel, work from home where possible.
Well, Steven, his message is simple. Save dollars, protect India's foreign exchange reserves, and his appeal comes amid the ongoing Iran war and the resultant rise in crude oil prices and simply pressure on the rupee.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged citizens to curb fuel use, revive working from home, pause gold purchases and reduce overseas travel to deal with the surge in global energy prices amid the continued crisis in the Middle East. Addressing a rally in Hyderabad, PM Modi noted that the austerity measures, a reminder of the COVID-19 pandemic, would reduce India's fuel consumption and help protect the country's foreign exchange reserves. He said reducing gold imports and foreign travel would help conserve foreign currency reserves as higher oil prices increase pressure on India's import bill.
साथियों, हमें पेट्रोल डीजल का उपयोग
Friends, we will have to reduce the use of petrol and diesel. In cities where there is a metro, we have decided that we will use the metro. We will use the metro the most. If it is necessary to use a car, then we will try to use a carpool. We will try to get more people to sit with us. If we have to send goods somewhere, then we will try to send goods trains from the railway services so that due to being an electric railway, petrol and diesel are not needed. People who have an electric vehicle should also try to use it as much as possible. Friends, during Corona, we did work from home, online meetings, video conferences and developed many such arrangements, and we also got used to it. Today the demand for time is such that if we start those arrangements again, then it will be in the interest of the country. Work from home, online conferences, virtual meetings, we have to give them priority again. Friends, buying gold is another aspect in which foreign currency is spent a lot. There was a time when there was a crisis, when there was a war. People would donate gold for the country. Today, donation is not needed, but for the benefit of the country, we have to decide that for a year, whether it is a function at home or any other event, we will not buy gold jewelry. We will not buy gold to save the foreign currency. Our patriotism is giving us a challenge, and we have to accept this challenge and save the foreign currency.
और हमें इस चुनौती को स्वीकार करते हुए विदेशी मुद्रा को बचाना होगा.
India is the latest among a growing number of Asian economies calling for lower energy consumption amid skyrocketing fuel prices due to tensions in the Middle East. India imports nearly 85% of its oil, and there has been a multi-billion-dollar uptick in its crude bill since the war started and Iran closed traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow Gulf choke point through which a fifth of global oil supply passes in peacetime. Spiking fuel prices are threatening to widen India's trade deficit and current account deficit. The rupee is also facing a blow, trading near an all-time low against the dollar.
In more news from the Iran war, Monday's front pages in Iran portrayed an Islamic Republic preparing for the possible resumption of war with the United States and Israel.
Well, Stevin, a day after Iran made a counter-proposal that US President Donald Trump rejected, headlines focused on military preparedness, warnings that Washington would pay a heavy price if fighting resumes, and insistence that Iran will not capitulate under pressure. And to bring us the latest on this and more, we are now crossing over to Jaimal Ratnayaka.
A very good evening to you, Stevin and Hashni, and of course a very good evening to everyone joining us from your respective homes. As you guys mentioned, the main global threat vector that remains for the international community is still the Iran war. And today, Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghei said the United States continues to make quote-unquote unreasonable demands, and added that Tehran's response to Trump's proposal was quote-unquote not excessive. He also claimed that Iran's proposal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and end the war with the US was a quote-unquote legitimate demand.
Iran is not bullying other nations, and Iran is against any act of bullying. And when we look at the demeanor of the United States, they have brought in thousands of troops, military gear from thousands of miles ago, and their actions against Venezuela and what they are doing against Cuba, all these demeanors prove that the United States is exercising the act of bullying, targeting unarmed, defenseless, innocent civilians and targeting civilian infrastructures. What Iran is doing is simply defending themselves and acting against these actions of bullying through their interference in the region.
Diplomatic efforts to reach a peace deal have hit yet another deadlock as the US and Iran remain at odds. Here's where things stand. Iran sent its response to a US proposal to Pakistan mediators yesterday to be delivered to the US. Iran's Tasnim news agency reported that the response included a demand for compensation for war damages and emphasized Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Trump posted on social media that he had received Iran's response and didn't like it, calling it quote-unquote totally unacceptable. Asked whether combat operations against Iran were over, Trump told US media last night that quote-unquote they are defeated, but that doesn't mean they are done. Iran's president said on X that Iran would quote-unquote never bow down to the enemy and would defend national interests with strength.
Of course, the Middle East tensions have had a massive bearing on oil prices, and similarly, oil prices have risen after President Donald Trump said Iran's response to US proposals to end the war was quote-unquote totally unacceptable. International oil benchmark Brent rose by 4.1% to $105.50 US a barrel in Asian trade before falling slightly. And what about the energy sector here in Sri Lanka? The main desk has the details. Stevin? Hashmi?
Yes, thank you, Jaimal. Now, against the backdrop of ongoing conflict in the Middle East, Sri Lanka has brought into effect the revised electricity tariffs for the second and third quarters of this year, starting today.
Yes, Ashini. Now, the Minister of Energy, Anurag Karunatilaka, said the latest electricity tariff increase will affect only 7.29% of the country's electricity consumers.
There will be no increase for domestic users consuming between 0 and 180 units of electricity. However, consumers who use more than 181 units will see a rise in their monthly bills. A household consuming 210 units will see its electricity bill increase from the existing 9,570 rupees to 11,330 rupees, an increase of 1,760 rupees. Similarly, consumers using 240 units will face an increase of 2,210 rupees, raising their bill from 12,120 rupees to 14,330 rupees. Domestic users consuming 270 units will see their bills rise by 2,660 rupees, while those using 300 units will face an increase of 3,110 rupees.
අපි දන්නවා 2026 දෙවන කාර්තුව සඳහා කලින් මහජන උපිතා කොමිසම වගේ ඉදිරිපත් කළා තියෙනවා.
We are aware that for the second quarter of 2026, actual electricity generation costs increased beyond the forecast that had previously been submitted and approved by the Public Utilities Commission. As a result, the need arose to revise electricity tariffs once again. To give an example, diesel costs were initially forecast at 417 million rupees, but have now escalated to 6,257 million rupees. In addition, the level of hydropower generation we had anticipated is expected to decline due to insufficient rainfall, leading to a reduction in electricity generated from hydro sources. Similarly, naphtha costs, which were earlier estimated at 8,647 million rupees, have increased to 11,686 million rupees. Due to rising costs across multiple power generation sources, the total estimated generation cost for this quarter has increased from the previously projected 77,432 million rupees to 104,449 million rupees. This represents an overall increase of 27,016 million rupees. Consequently, the Ministry of Power was compelled to seek approval from the Public Utilities Commission for an 18% tariff increase. Sri Lanka currently has a total of 7,913,820 electricity consumers, of whom 6,751,133 are domestic users. Among them, 6,429,757 consumers use less than 180 units of electricity. These domestic consumers who use below 180 units will not be affected by the tariff revision, meaning their electricity bills will not increase. Additionally, there are 49,906 electricity connections for religious institutions. Of these, 38,566 institutions consume less than 180 units and will therefore not be impacted by the tariff increase. Overall, only about 7.29% of the country's total electricity consumers will be affected by this adjustment. With regard to concerns surrounding coal quality issues, I wish to clearly state that any financial loss resulting from coal quality related problems has not been included in this electricity tariff increase. There are provisions within the tender procedures to recover such losses from the relevant companies, and actions are being taken in accordance with those provisions.
ඒක පියවා ගැනීම සඳහා අපිට ඒ ටෙන්ඩර් පටිපාටිය තුල අදාළ සමාගම් තුලින් අය කර ගැනීම සඳහා විධිවිධාන ප්‍රතිපාදන තියෙනවා. අපි ඒ අනුව කටයුතු කරමින් ඉන්නවා.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa has been summoned to appear before the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption tomorrow to record a statement in connection with an alleged $2 million bribe linked to the purchase of Airbus aircraft.
Rajapaksa has been called before the Commission based on revelations made by Kapila Chandra Sena, the former Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lankan Airlines and the main suspect in the related case, who alleged that 60 million rupees from the alleged bribe money was handed over to Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, former Civil Aviation Minister Priyankara Jairatna and former Sri Lankan Airlines board member Vili Gamage have been summoned to appear before the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. Vili Gamage appeared before the Commission earlier today, provided a statement and left the premises. Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa said that he will appear before the Commission tomorrow. Investigations into his death are currently being carried out by the Colombo Crimes Division. Police said that statements have been recorded so far from about 15 individuals, including former cricketer Aravinda De Silva, who is a relative and the owner of the house where Chandrasena's body was found. Police also revealed that Kapila Chandrasena, who was under a court warrant, had held discussions with his lawyers regarding judicial proceedings on the day before his death. Chandrasena, who had previously been remanded and later released on bail in connection with the bribery case, had produced two sureties whom he had reportedly obtained by paying 15,000 rupees each. After it was revealed that the sureties were hired, court ordered his rearrest. His body was found against this backdrop. The General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Attorney at Law Sagara Karyawasam, addressed the media today regarding Kapila Chandrasena's death and the summoning of Mahinda Rajapaksa before the Bribery Commission.
මේ වන විට විවිධ තොරතුරු ලැබෙමින් පවතිනවා ඒ අපකරුවන් ලබා දීම.
Various information is now emerging regarding the provision of those sureties and objections raised against them. We are currently gathering all the information, and in the future we will present to the public how this actually happened. What is now clearly visible is that this death goes beyond a suicide and points to abetment of suicide. Another extremely unfortunate matter is that the late Chandrasena was threatened and coerced into giving a statement. After giving that statement, Chandrasena informed court that he had been forced under death threats to include the names of Mahinda Rajapaksa and Nama Rajapaksa in that statement. If the government believes it can use statements obtained under threats to target leaders who served the country, defeated terrorism, developed the nation and stood up for the people by abusing the law and dragging them before the legal net, that will not be easy. We strongly believe the people of this country will rise against such actions.
ඒකට විරුද්ධව මේ රටේ ජනතාව නැගී හිටිනවා කියලා අපිට ලොකු විශ්වාසයක් තියෙනවා.
What is this scandal? The bribery investigation relates to a transaction proposed during 2012 and 2013, where Sri Lankan Airlines planned to retire 13 aircraft and purchase 14 new aircraft. An agreement was signed with France-based Airbus to purchase 6 A330 aircraft and 4 A350 aircraft. Allegations that bribes were paid in connection with this deal emerged in January 2020, following an investigation by the UK Serious Fraud Office. It was revealed that Airbus had agreed to pay a bribe of $16.84 million to intermediaries involved in the purchase of 10 aircraft. Investigations further revealed that $2 million from the alleged bribe had been credited to an account belonging to a company operated in Brunei in the name of Kapila Chandrasena's wife. Following these revelations, an investigation was launched in Sri Lanka as well. Findings showed that part of the $2 million had been transferred on several occasions from a Singapore account to Kapila Chandrasena's account in Australia. Funds from the same Singapore account were also transferred to 2 bank accounts in Sri Lanka. Statements obtained by the Bribery Commission from Chandrasena led to further disclosures. According to those findings, in 2013, $160,000 had been transferred from the Singapore account to an account belonging to Shamindra Rajapaksa, a then Sri Lankan Airlines board member. Shamindra Rajapaksa is the son of former Speaker Chamal Rajapaksa. According to Chandrasena's statements to the Bribery Commission, an additional 60 million rupees from the alleged bribery money had also been given to former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. He revealed that these payments were made on 3 occasions starting in 2015. One of Chandrasena's lawyers informed the Bribery Commission on the 19th of March that his client was willing to become a state witness. It is against this backdrop that Mahinda Rajapaksa, Priyankara Jayaratne and Willy Gamage have been summoned before the Commission. The Airbus transaction was cancelled following the change of government in 2015. The cost of cancelling the deal alone amounted to $98 million, a loss incurred without receiving a single aircraft or even spare parts. The deal is widely regarded as a corrupt transaction that caused Sri Lanka to lose millions of dollars without any tangible benefit.
The Police Terrorism Investigation Division questioned former Minister Uday Gamanpila in connection with a public statement he made regarding the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks. He was questioned for nearly 4 hours, during which his statement was recorded by investigators.
Leader Gaman Pillai appeared before the Terrorism Investigation Division at around 11 a.m. today in response to a summons issued by the unit. The investigation relates to a public statement made by Gaman Pillai on the 21st of April, in which he claimed that suspects linked to the Easter Sunday terrorist attacks had not been arrested. In that statement, Gaman Pillai specifically alleged that certain individuals who had received specialized training had neither been arrested nor rehabilitated. After nearly 4 hours of questioning and the recording of his statement, Gaman Pillai left the premises of the Terrorism Investigation Division.
The Samagi Janabalawegya, Sri Lanka Muslim Congress and the Lanka Tamil Arasa Kachi today called for provincial council elections to be held during a joint media briefing. At the video conference, SJB General Secretary Ranjith Madhuma Bandara said his party is willing to support holding the elections under the previous preferential voting system.
The media briefing took place at the office of the leader of the opposition in Colombo and was attended by SJB General Secretary Ranjith Madhuma Bandara, SLMC General Secretary Nizam Karyappa and ITAC Parliamentary Group Leader MP Shanakian Rasamanikam.
When the Janata Vimukti Peramuna came into power in 2024, it promised to hold provincial council elections within the first year. Yet, not only have the elections not been held, there is not even a visible attempt to conduct them. A parliamentary committee was appointed on this matter. But what we see today is that instead of decentralization, provincial councils are now centralized under the president. The 9 provincial administrations are controlled by governors appointed by the president, which effectively places the entire system under presidential control. Nearly 90% of the country's education system falls under provincial councils. Nearly 90% of healthcare is also under provincial councils. The majority of the agriculture also comes under provincial councils. However, today, all of this has moved away from elected representatives and into a centralized control. The simplest solution, and the one demanded by the people, by the opposition and even by sections of the government, is to hold the provincial council elections under the former preferential voting system. This can be done through a minor amendment. It requires only a simple majority. With 159 members, the government can easily do this. As the opposition, we too are ready to support it. We are calling for the powers vested in provincial councils, powers gained after years of conflict and dialogue, to be restored to all provinces, including the northern and eastern provinces as well as the rest of the country. The easiest and fastest way to hold provincial council elections is to repeal the 2017 Provincial Councils Election Act and conduct elections under the 1987 Act using the preferential voting system. Since the government did not intervene to take this step, I submitted a private member's bill in March 2025. That bill has now been gazetted and is ready for its second reading. If the government is genuinely interested in holding provincial council elections immediately, the relevant parliamentary committee could be convened urgently, the bill could be presented and passed as early as the next parliamentary week, and provincial council elections could be held within approximately 3 months.
So what really happened to the provincial council elections? Do you remember? From the 28th April 1988, the date on which the first provincial council election was held, the same electoral system remained in effect until legislation was introduced in 2017 to change it. In October 2017, under the Good Governance Administration, Parliament passed legislation with a 2/3 majority to introduce a mixed proportional representation system for provincial council elections. Following the passage of the Act, a 5-member delimitation commission was appointed to define electoral boundaries. The commission submitted its report in February 2018. The report required approval by 2/3 special majority in Parliament. In August 2018, the report was presented to Parliament, but it was defeated. Notably, even the then Minister of Provincial Councils and Local Government, Faisal Mustafa, who presented the report, did not support it. He stated that there were shortcomings in the delimitation proposals. Not a single member of Parliament voted in favour of the report. A total of 139 MPs voted against it. What happened next? As the report failed to receive parliamentary approval, the Speaker appointed another committee in August 2018, chaired by then Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, to address the deficiencies in the report. The commission was required to complete its review within 2 months. Accordingly, the committee's mandate was due to expire on the 28th October 2018. However, 2 days early, on the 26th October 2018, the Prime Minister was removed. Mahinda Rajapaksa was appointed in his place and the 52-day constitutional crisis began. From that point onwards, discussions on the committee report came to an end. Under the currently prevailing law, provincial council elections cannot be held. This is because elections under the new system require finalized electoral divisions. However, those divisions have yet to be determined. As a result, until that process is completed, elections cannot be conducted under the post-2017 system. One additional point. Do you remember a time when local government elections were postponed, citing a lack of funds? The public is now watching closely as the same individuals who introduced legislation that complicated the electoral system are calling for elections to be held.
The role of the opposition in the current political landscape has been questioned by Hiru Janapala Front General Secretary Chenik Abesinghe, who shared his views on the matter today.
For a
long time, Ranil Wickremesinghe's United National Party and Sajid Premadasa's Samagi Janabalavegya were divided by open hostility like sworn enemies. Now they say they are coming together and that they will take power next. Then we ask, if so, has Ranil Wickremesinghe now been cleared of the allegations regarding the central bank? Has he now been washed clean of those allegations? Likewise, the most serious allegation made by Ranil's camp against Sajid Premadasa was that he lacks ability, capacity and leadership qualities and that he cannot govern this country. If that is the case, then what we are seeing is an alliance formed between the blind and the crippled. Alliances like that do nothing for the country. When we look at their recent meeting, one person says that even if they're enemies, they must come together to form a government. Another says that leadership is not important at this moment and that sending the government home is what matters. What is clearly reflected in both statements is the desire to create some alliance, bring someone forward as leader and secure ministerial positions. I also saw Rajitha Senaratne sitting in the front row and speaking loudly. But Rajitha had earlier made several serious allegations against the previous administration about Lamborghinis, about horses and about money held in foreign bank accounts. Now he is on that same stage talking about forming the next alliance. We clearly tell the people of this country, if an alliance or platform is to be formed, it must be one that can take the country forward, not alliances formed merely to capture power or secure ministerial positions. What we are seeing now is the same addiction to ministerial posts, the inability to remain without office. We state clearly that such alliances will not bring any benefit to this country.
The Ministry of Health has taken steps to temporarily suspend the service of 2 doctors attached to the Trincomalee Hospital in connection with the death of an infant. That occurred while a trade union action by the Government Medical Officers Association was in progress. The decision has been taken based on several allegations, including neglect of official duties during designated working hours.
The Director General of Health Services has suspended the services of a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist and a senior residential doctor serving at the Trincomalee Hospital. The action follows a preliminary investigation conducted by the Ministry of Health into an incident that occurred on 9th of April when an infant died during a delivery at the Trincomalee Hospital. Investigations have alleged that although 6 telephone calls were made requesting the 2 doctors to attend the maternity ward at the time of the delivery, they did not report to the ward. It has also been alleged that at the time the calls were made, the 2 doctors were attending a caesarean surgery at a private hospital. Based on these allegations, the Ministry of Health initiated a preliminary inquiry into the incident. Following the findings of the investigation, the Director General of Health Services decided to temporarily suspend the services of the 2 doctors over multiple allegations, including abandoning duties during official working hours and engaging in work at a private hospital outside approved procedures. The Ministry of Health has stated that a formal disciplinary inquiry will be conducted into the incident. Meanwhile, the Government Medical Officers Association responded to the matter today.
We have informed all doctors in our membership that they may engage in trade union actions within a certain scope. That scope is based on the foundation that under no circumstances should any patient's life be endangered. Therefore, if a doctor has avoided emergency treatment services under such a situation, it is not a matter that concerns the GMOA. It is an issue related to that specific doctor's conduct and procedures. Generally, whether we like it or not, a certain number of infant deaths occur in the country. These infant deaths happen both during days of trade union action as well as on other days. However, our trade union actions are not relevant to any such infant death, maternal death or any other death. This is because all such instances are emergencies. Providing coverage for emergencies, participating in them and engaging in the relevant treatment services is our policy and our responsibility.
This is extreme weather.
The Department of Meteorology today issued an advisory for heavy rains that can follow within the next few days.
The advisory was issued due to the influence of the low pressure area in the northeast of Sri Lanka. And Shalini Ratnavira is ready to bring us the latest weather update for you.
Yes, Hashini and Sevin, as we are speaking, several areas of the country are experiencing rainy conditions. Now, issuing a weather advisory this evening, the Department of Meteorology warned of heavy rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters in the western, Sabaragamuwa, central, Uva, northwestern and northern provinces, and as well as in the Galle, Trincomalee and Batticaloa districts. Now, according to the department, the atmospheric disturbance that prevailed over the Bay of Bengal has developed into a low-pressure area and is currently located near to the northeast of the island. Now, the department added that due to the influence of this system, the prevailing showery conditions over the island are expected to continue. Skies over most parts of the country remain cloudy with intermittent showers or thunder showers likely at times. The Department of Meteorology has advised the public to take necessary precautions to minimize damage caused by temporary strong winds and lightning due to thunder showers. The department had further urged the public to avoid staying outdoors or under trees during lightning and instead seek shelter inside secure buildings or enclosed vehicles. Meanwhile, landslide warnings have been issued for 12 divisional secretariat divisions across 6 districts due to the ongoing rainfall. The National Building Research Organization stated that a level 2 landslide warning has been issued for the Passara Divisional Secretariat Division in the Badulla district. At the same time, the Irrigation Department says 16 major reservoirs are currently spilling due to the heavy rains, with 9 medium-scale reservoirs also at spill level currently. Now, Bandarella town was flooded this afternoon following heavy rainfall in the area. Our correspondent reported that the inundation caused disruptions to vehicular movement, creating difficulties for commuters traveling through the town. Now, we at Newsfirst will bring you the latest updates from the weather situation, and we urge you all to follow the necessary advisories issued by the Met Department and the relevant authorities.
This is extreme weather.
The Yaldevi Express, which stands as an unmatched symbol of the Northern Railway line, resumed its journey to Jaffna and Kankasantharai today.
As the impact of Cyclone Ditwa reverberated across the Northern Railway line, it caused significant disruptions to railway services, resulting in the stoppage of the Yaldevi plying on the Northern Railway line. The Yaldevi Express was briefly reinstated from Colombo to Kankasantharai on the 24th of December last year. However, services were once again restricted from the 19th of January to facilitate essential reconstruction work along the Northern Railway line. Following these developments, the Yaldevi Express commenced its journey from Colombo Fort at 6:40 am today, heading toward Jaffna and Kankasantharai. The train reached the Kilnochchi railway station at 1:05 pm this afternoon, completing the formal restoration of this iconic service to the northern province. The Yaldevi train will operate from Colombo Fort to Jaffna on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, and will make the return journey from Jaffna to Colombo Fort on Tuesday, Thursdays and Sundays. The railway department further stated that 4 coaches of the Yaldevi train are air-conditioned and facilities have been made available for prior reservation of seats in these coaches. Seats can be booked by visiting the website www.railway.gov.lk.
Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Engineer Iranga Veeraratna, stated that Sri Lanka is at a pivotal stage in its digital transformation journey as the country seeks greater international exposure and global engagement. He made these remarks while addressing some of Sri Lanka's most promising young social entrepreneurs representing universities across the island at the Halt Prize Sri Lanka Nationals 2025-2026 held yesterday in Colombo. The Halt Prize Sri Lanka Nationals 2025-2026, hosted by APIT Sri Lanka and the Halt Prize Sri Lanka National Committee, together with the endorsement of the Ministry of Digital Economy, was held under the patronage of Deputy Minister of Digital Economy, Engineer Iranga Veeraratna, and Deputy Minister of Industries and Entrepreneurship Development, Chaturanga Abesingha, together with officials from the Halt Prize Foundation.
Now in Sri Lanka, all this time, there were few angel investors and small-scale venture capitalists. We haven't really built the venture capitalists or the investment ecosystem in the country to look at the innovation or the value of the virtual asset or the IP and then provide investment. So to break that boundary, we are going to, by the government, we are going to establish fund of fund, which is by the contribution, seed capital contribution by the government. At the same time, we have to establish Sri Lanka as a new regional leader in terms of knowledge-based solution. So in order to address that also, like we are now currently going on a strategic and roadmap development with the help of World Bank to come up with a strategy as well as the industry assessment to take this digital industry to the next level. When we were coming to the power, there were about $1.5 billion worth of foreign revenue generating digital industry, which has grown to about $2 billion now, and our target is to reach $5 billion next year. To achieve that, we have to change our mindset from the traditional outsource-based company mindset to more research and development, intellectual property, as well as high skill, high quality knowledge economy. And for that, we have to, of course, build our third pillar, which is about the human capital.
The Halt Prize Sri Lanka Nationals 2025-2026 provided a national platform for student entrepreneurs to present bold ideas, receive expert feedback, connect with industry leaders and compete for the opportunity to take their ventures to the global stage.
You can pivot towards a better society. You can pivot it towards an equitable society. And that's possible. That's why humans are fighting. The fight is long due. 200 years, 300 years, humans has been fighting for equity and justice. And that struggle will continue. And I wish that all of you will start reading and learning and unlearning what was taught to you from school. It's not demand and supply. It is not demand and supply that runs the world. You need to understand human needs and how such can be fulfilled in a much easier, accessible way. And that is where the world will start changing.
This year's competing teams represented both state and private universities in Sri Lanka, including the University of Colombo, University of Sri Jayawardenepura, APIT, IIT, SLIT, ESOFT and others.
A reading session of Kumar De Silva's latest work, Bonso Katha, the Sinhala translation of his book, The Bonso Diaries, took place in Colombo yesterday.
Bonswa Katha, the Sinhala translation of his book, The Bonswa Diaries, is the latest work of Kumar De Silva. A reading session on Bonswa Katha took place in Colombo. The event drew a crowd of media enthusiasts, long-time fans and literary figures eager to revisit the stories that defined one of the nation's most iconic cultural programs.
බොන්සුවා කතා කියන්නේ 80 90 දශකවල කාශය වුණ බොන්සුවා කියන වැඩසටහනේ ඉතිහාසය හරියටම කිව්වොත් ප්‍රංශ විප්ලවය සිද්ධ වෙලා ඉංග්‍රීසි චිත්‍රපට විකට නාට්‍ය සංගීත වැඩසටහන්
Bonswa Katha, the Sinhala translation of De Silva's The Bonswa Diaries, serves as a vibrant archive of the French Sri Lankan cultural show that graced small screens starting in the mid-1980s. The event also marked the 40th anniversary of Kumar De Silva on screen.
We are currently tracking a rapidly evolving international public health event. The hantavirus outbreak identified aboard the Dutch cruise ship MV Hondius last month has already claimed the lives of 2 passengers on the vessel.
Now, to give you the latest developments of this developing story, we once again cross over to Jamal. Jamal?
Certainly, guys. Thank you very much. Now, according to the latest information that we have on the MV Hondius, the MV Hondius was anchored near Tenerife in Spain's Canary Islands after being stranded for weeks following this particular outbreak. Health authorities have been locating and monitoring passengers who disembarked from the ship before the outbreak was identified. Repatriation flights have transported some of the passengers to their respective countries, while the other passengers on the ship will remain on it as it returns to the Netherlands. Meanwhile, an American and a French national who have returned to their home countries, having left the cruise ship, have tested positive for the hantavirus, and overall 9 cases of hantavirus linked to the MV Hondius have now been confirmed. Earlier, 3 passengers died after traveling on the ship, 2 of whom were confirmed to have had the virus. Here's more on this developing story.
The WHO said the person who is believed to have been the first to be infected in the outbreak died before he could be tested. 2 other British nationals with confirmed cases are currently being treated in the Netherlands and South Africa. In its statement early today, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services said all 17 U.S. citizens on board a repatriation flight would undergo clinical assessment at a medical facility in Nebraska. A British national living in the U.S. was also repatriated alongside them. 7 other U.S. passengers had already returned home and were being monitored in their home states. In its latest update from Tenerife early today, Spanish officials said 54 passengers and crew were still on board the ship. Spanish Health Minister Monica Garcia said 6 of those were passengers, 4 Australians, 1 Briton and 1 New Zealander. Hantaviruses are usually carried by rodents, but human transmission of the Andes strain, which the World Health Organization believes was contracted by some of the Dutch ship's passengers while in South America, is possible. Symptoms can include fever, extreme fatigue, muscle aches, stomach pain, vomiting, diarrhea and shortness of breath. Officials say the risk of a major outbreak is very low.
In sports news now, we focus on the bilateral cricket series between the Sri Lanka Women's A and New Zealand Women's A teams, which is set to begin tomorrow. All matches of the series will be held at the Rangiri Dambulla International Cricket Stadium. Let's take a look.
This series between the Sri Lanka Women's A and New Zealand Women's A cricket teams includes 3 one-day internationals and 3 T20 matches. The 15-member Sri Lankan squad for the series was announced today, with Satya Sandipani appointed as the captain.
We have had a very good training. We've been training hard, playing practice matches and analysing their team. We feel we are well prepared to win this series. I believe they even have a player who has played about 50 national matches. Despite their experience, we are ready to face them. We expect to give the New Zealand team a good fight throughout the series.
Players from both teams engaged in training sessions today. The ODI series, which begins tomorrow, is scheduled to conclude on the 18th. The T20 series between the two sides will be held from the 21st to the 25th of May.
We end tonight's edition of Primetime News with some beautiful scenes from our special segment, Beautiful Sri Lanka.
With that, we're up for Primetime News for tonight. Thank you for watching.
Good night.
Good night.
The rhythm of flowing water echoes through the mist-shrouded mountains. This is Belihuloya, where the vibrant beauty of the Sabragama province overflows. It is a paradise where the cool winds and the crystalline streams of the Knuckles Range meet, offering a profound sense of healing for both body and soul. From the deep blue waters of Pahanthudava to the silence that stretches toward the distant horizon, it is an experience that transcends words. Belihuloya, nature's true sanctuary.
Beautiful Sri Lanka.